Building the life you truly want to live means that you get what you want out of it and people act the way you want. And it all starts with one small thing, which is that you stop taking no for an answer. Let me give you a big disclaimer, which is that please don't use this in the wrong instances. If a girl says no, then okay, fine, cool, move on to the next. But in terms of sales, in terms of a prospect emailing you saying that, you know what, this is not what I'm looking for right now, these are all things that you can deflect and basically get paid out of. I cannot even count the number of times a prospect has emailed me saying, hey, not interested, and a week later we're on a sales call and they're paying me $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. The point here is that you simply need to follow a few principles out of life that when people say no to you, they one, feel stupid. Second, your offers are so good they simply cannot deny you. I've spent long and hard hours thinking about what makes these principles, right? These are not just tactics. These are not, okay, go do XYZ. These are the principles behind it so that you can use it in any circumstance. Right? You go to a restaurant pretty late and then they're like, we're closing. What do you say in order to be like, okay, serve this one last meal and then it's done for you, like you can close after that, I'll pay you extra. What exactly do you say to be so persuasive that this happens, right? You get no matter what you want out of life. That is the purpose of this video. Stop taking no for an answer. I've written it all down. We're going to break it down together. Number one is the law of redefinition. When someone says no to you, it does not directly mean no in their face value. It means no to the terms that they know, right? If you can bend the frame to a point where it becomes favorable to them to say yes, that means that you've got them to say yes, basically. So let me just give you an illustration, right? So there was a young painter who wanted to paint the walls of a king, right? He wanted to paint the walls of a king's castle, right? He went to the king and he said that, listen, I want to paint your walls, right? And the king says, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to ruin how my castle looks. As soon as that happened, the young painter reframed the whole conversation as, I want to paint the wall because I want your visitors to see your glory before they taste your wine. What this has done is that this has changed the frame of the conversation into just a painting to the king's pride, to the king's victory, to showing off, right? He's just changed the frame in order to get yes, right? This is the law of redefinition. You take someone's no and you identify why they've said no. You mix it with either a fear that they have, a desire that they have. You change the frame to such an extent that they would feel foolish saying no. That's number one, which is the law of redefinition. Number two, the law of relentless calm. It just so happens a lot of times that you might have the perfect offer, you might have the perfect service, you might have the perfect everything, but you might not have one of the most important thing for them to say yes, which is timing. When they say no, it does not mean no in an instant, right? It does not mean no right there. It means a no for that specific time in that specific situation. You might be offering, suppose, fitness packages to this one person. They say, no, I don't want this right now. And you're like, okay, cool. You try different frames, you try different things, it doesn't work, and then you're like, okay, you let it go. 3 months later, you go out there and you ask them, and they say yes instantly. No need for a new frame, no need for anything else. The reason is because they have a marriage coming up. They want to look slim. They have a wedding of a cousin coming up. They want to look good in their sari, whatever, right? That is the point, right? If you're persistent, timing will work in your favor because it will be forced to, right? If you can, that coupled with understanding their life situation is going to make you unstoppable, right? So this is the second rule, the law of relentless calm. Number three is the law of Trojan gift. Essentially, you make an ask and then you keep adding on to that ask, right? So depending on whether or not they say yes, you add things to that ask. So suppose you say that, how about this? We'll go on a date to this fancy place. They say, no, I'm busy. And then you're like, today, I've booked a special candlelight dinner just for the two of us, right? They said, okay, maybe. And then you say that, okay, I've also bought you a dress that's going to come to your place right now. You're going to wear it, send me a picture and we get ready. Say, okay. And then you're like, finally, I've also booked a really nice villa where we're going to stay for the entire weekend after our date. So now you're adding things on to the offer that just makes it foolish for them to say no. Essentially what's going on here is that you are taking an offer, you're building on top of it, right? So if they say no to the first thing, it's completely fine because it's going to persuade them to say yes. If they say yes and you keep building onto these things, it's going to make the offer and the deal much sweeter. The point is that you take one single offer, you build so much on top of it. This even works in sales. This even works with your product. So you keep adding things on top of that little base offer that it just feels stupid for them to say no. This is the next law of not taking no for an answer, which is the law of Trojan gift. Number 4 is the law of momentum, right? So this is super important. People submit to momentum, and you would be so surprised how many people just like motion, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, but they like to see things moving. They like to see progress. People are addicted towards that feeling that they get when things are working out, right? So instead of saying, okay, is this a yes or no, what you can do is that you say, tomorrow we have a meeting, tomorrow we're going to host a meeting where we're going to have all these different things. We have XYZ planned. Can you please show up so that we can get this in motion? That's much easier of a ask than to say, okay, are you free tomorrow? People like motion, right? So they'd like to see series of things that can progress over time, rather than just them taking decisions, right? This works regardless of what offering you have. This works in your social interaction. This works regardless of what you do, simply because people like progress, right? Stagnation scares people like nothing else, right? People hate the fact, also it's raining, so people hate the fact that things might remain the same for years on end. That scares the hell out of people, so they love motion, and you use that to your favor. This is the law of motion, and yeah, these are 4 laws to abuse in order to not take no for an answer. This works regardless of your dating, if you're in your social interaction, you're trying to get your friends to come out, whatever it is, or in a business, right? It works if you're dealing with people. These are the principles behind all the tactics that you see online. All this objection handling and all this is based out of these principles. These principles are what will lead you to be much more persuasive rather than someone that is just by hearting these tactics and getting nowhere, right? So these are the simple principles. I hope I could do enough justice in terms of teaching you all of these things. In case that you found this valuable, please send this over to a friend through WhatsApp. There'll be a link here. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.